What's going on, everybody? So today's video, I thought we would talk about post-credit scenes and how the Marvel Cinematic Universe has yet to connect a lot of these, and wondering if they're going to connect these all before this reboot we're going to be getting at the end of Phase 6. With that being said, also, I do want to mention that most of these post-credit scenes are something that we've been waiting for years, and this is one part of why the MCU is in so much trouble and why the MCU is hurting because of connectivity. So without further ado, we're going to go over those post-credit scenes and talk about how they can continue and why they should. Let's get into the video. And before I start this was a thread by Bradley Osborne on X. So thank you very much. Let's dive into it. Back in 2016, we were teased in Doctor Strange that we would see a fight between him and Mordo, aka Doctor Strange and Mordo. While we see Stefan fight a version of Mordo in Multiverse of Madness, it was not the same version of the character. We will probably never see this battle happen in the MCU. That was a huge post-credit scene that they were kind of pushing Mordo as a big threat. However, they ended up not, and essentially killing him off screen from Wanda. At least that was in a deleted scene where she would bring his head to the Carmontage and show it to Doctor Strange. Now, the best we got was in Multiverse of Madness, them fighting in a room and then him leaving him there stating, "Now I can see why this Mordo didn't like you." Next up, in the post-credit scene for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we were teased that Sharon Carter was going to play a villainous role in the future. This did not happen in Brave New World. If it doesn't happen in Thunderbolts either, we will probably never see the storyline continued. Now, that one was huge because honestly, it could have turned Brave New World into something even bigger. We could have said at that point Sharon was working with Val and Ross and essentially was doing drug deals and doing different arms races and all these things, trying to be the big superpower, but at the same time selling them off to illegal gunsmen, working with the Serpent Society, and having them as a bigger role in this film, with Giancarlo Esposito playing a lot bigger role than he did. And at the same time, we could find out at the end that she possibly found a different super soldier serum and distributed it to Val, who in a post-credit scene could have had the Sentry on ice working on him, or just having him in a facility being worked upon, and it could have kind of show off and it would say like the Sentry Project. Obviously in Brave New World as well, still having Thunderbolt Ross Hulk out, have him put into the raft, and then pretty much having Falcon and Captain America going to him in Thunderbolt saying, "You want to be redeemed? We need your help fighting this Sentry." And it could have this big old battle at the end with Sentry ripping the Power Broker in half. Next up, in the post-credit scene for Shang-Chi, it is revealed that the 10 rings were sending a signal to somebody. Rumor was the original plan was the 10 rings to have been created by Kang, and that they were gonna play a part in the Kang dynasty. We also heard that essentially it was the signal going to the future to Scarlet Centurion or one of those members, and essentially it was letting them know they had to come and grab them and get ready to conquer this 616 universe or timeline. Now, we don't know what's going on. Obviously, he assembled with the Hulk, Captain Marvel, Wong, and obviously Shang-Chi and Awkwafina, aka Katie. Now, we don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore with Kang Dynasty obviously being scrapped. That's a huge plot point that's just knocked out of the air. In the next one, in the Marvel's post-credit scene for Eternals, we see the introduction of Star Fox, who was gonna help the Eternals locate the ones taken by Ereshkigal. Due to the fact that we are not getting an Eternal sequel anytime soon, we will probably never see this storyline resolved. Now, I've heard multiple times, and this is the rumor, that essentially Eternals 2 and whatever else it's supposed to be is going to be during Phase 7, where they're going to go more cosmic and more mutant side. I don't know how they're going to do that. It sounds like that's a lot going on at one time, but it is what it is. Also, we don't know where the Eternals went, so how are they supposed to locate them? So I think Star Fox was just honestly just a glorified cameo that's never going to pay off. In the post-credit scenes once again for Eternals, or post-credit scene number 2, we see Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight, about to pick up the Ebony Blade, but a voice behind him stops him. It was later revealed that the voice was actually Blade. "You sure you want to do that, Mr. Whitman?" is what he states. The story was supposed to continue in the Blade movie, but that movie was basically canceled. Now, we know the Blade movie is in trouble. We don't know what's going on. It's been rewritten 10 times. DeMayo's come out and said that it's a mess, blah, blah, blah. And currently, right now, we probably have to wait till Phase 7 or 8 because we know that it's not going to be until they get to the magical side where they bring in Ghost Rider and all these other characters, maybe to fight Mephisto. We don't exactly know. But once again, that's another post-credit scene that's gone nowhere. In the post-credit scene for Moon Knight, we were introduced of the third alter ego, aka Jake Lockley. This storyline was definitely going to be used for a second season, but with the fact that Marvel hasn't even announced another season yet, there's a chance that will never be continued. Realistically, I don't think there was ever going to be another season. It was just teasing that there was another personality. Obviously, Moon Knight's going to continue with the Midnight Suns, but at the same time, they had a big opportunity where they could have brought in Rama Tut and mentioned him more often. We saw there was a tiny little cameo on the back of somebody's jacket, but to actually have tied him in more there and just gone into more like Egypt kind of stuff, it would have been so great and we could have learned more about the character. Obviously, bringing Kang once again into another movie or show. In the post-credit scene of Multiverse of Madness, Steven is introduced to Clea, who requests his help to stop a wave of incursions that are happening. We might see this resolved in Doomsday, but I have a feeling this was supposed to be saved for Doctor Strange 3. Multiverse of Madness post-credit scene was probably one of the biggest teases for the multiversal saga that we've had a total of like 4 movies in the multiverse, and that could obviously be No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Deadpool and Wolverine, and the Marvels, until obviously the Fantastic Four, and I would say Quantumania, but okay, so 6. But anyways, this one could have been so big to have this tease go into Doctor Strange 3 that now apparently isn't going to be till after Avengers Doomsday, which in my honest opinion kind of ruins it. We should have a time runs out kind of thing where all these characters are doing their thing. Doctor Strange is also on his way trying to gain more power to be able to save the universes and help out everybody and make sure that their universe is the last one to survive. Obviously meeting the Black Swans, meeting up with Rabu Allah, Doctor Doom, and then eventually creating Battleworld. In the post-credit scene for Thor Love and Thunder, we are introduced to Hercules, who is being sent by his father to kill Thor. There are rumors that Marvel wants to do a Thor 5, which could see the storyline continued, but if that happens, this might be the only time we see Hercules, which is a shame because Hercules is a great character, and obviously with his strength could be a very pivotal role to helping the Avengers. Once again, another character that Thor can bring along to help the Avengers out against the big battle ensuing soon. Now, with that being said, Thor against the old gods would be awesome. Having Thor against like Zeus and Hades and Poseidon and all these characters would be super awesome and could be cool. But at the same time, we know he's going to end up fighting Hercules, and they're going to team up and they're going to end up fighting the gods. Just like Godzilla versus Kong, just like Batman versus Superman, just like every other versus movie that never really has a versus series. And then what would be cool is if you found out at the end that Kang was actually influencing the gods, and that's the reason why they're acting the way they are. Once again, a way you can bring in Kang. In the Quantumania post-credit scene, we see the introduction of the Council of Kangs, which was going to be our big tease for the Kang Dynasty. Now that Avengers 5 is going to be centered around Doctor Doom, we may not even see these characters again unless they are killed off by Doom, which I think would be a crappy way to go. Obviously, at the end of Loki Season 2, it was teased that the TVA now were able to hold off these big threats and all of the Kangs that we saw, where we would have originally seen them all go to Earth and really mess them up, time traveling and all these kind of things and having to fight different Kangs and whatnot, while the Avengers had to fight other Avengers or evil variants. Now, once again, Kang is depreciated and he's brought down to nothing. What a waste. We got 2 more, so make sure you hold on. Even though it's not a post-credit scene, the ending of Secret Invasion may never be resolved. The ending revealed that the Skrulls have impersonated thousands of people around the world. I highly doubt the Marvels will ever continue this storyline. Marvels, sorry, not the Marvels. And once again, that's a big thing too. What is going on? What are we doing? We could have had the Skrulls, we could have brought more, but obviously with Secret Invasion being one of the worst MCU projects of all time, they could have brought that into Brave New World too. We need to feel like everything is turning against the Avengers, that everything is turning against the characters, that nobody can be trusted, that the world is going to just shambles, and that the universes as we know it are being destroyed. We need big threats everywhere we go. We need things that continue and not just be one-off little stories. And last but not least, another storyline that I fear may never continue is the ending of Agatha All Along, which ends with Billy and Agatha leaving to go find a resurrected Tommy. If this is not continued in Vision Quest, I don't know if we will ever see the storyline resolved either. Now, that one I know is different because they are going after Tommy. When it's going to happen, we don't know. If it's going to be Phase 7 once again, We don't know. The problem is there's a lot of things that are supposed to happen that aren't happening, that are future projects that haven't continued. And that's the problem that the MCU has. It's continuing your story's connective tissue. Iron Man was in like 10 of the 21 or 22 films from the Infinity Saga. Chris Evans' Captain America was in many. Bucky was in many. Falcon was an Ant-Man. There are just so many things that we're just missing that were not being pushed. And that's why the connectivity is so far down the drain. The Infinity Saga had the Infinity Stones, a build-up. People were all crazy about it, trying to figure out each movie, what each stone meant, where each stone was harvested. And then at the end, you had this big purple guy who was being teased throughout 3 films and multiple post-credit scenes. He's coming for the stones. And he's going to do what he must do. And then obviously Infinity War Endgame brought up that conclusion. And guess what? Here we don't even know. We had nothing for the first phase. Then we have pivoting to Kang. Then we pivot away from Kang, find out it's Doctor Doom. And we don't even have a tease of Doctor Doom yet. We just have the leader saying, what are you going to do when they come to this Earth? You're not going to be able to stop them. Blah, 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 blah. That's all we have. And that's why I feel right now, for part 1, the MCU has a problem.